Cheers peeps, welcome to Hopefully Here. I am Hope, as always, super stoked to have you. Today, it is water, ice water in a Christmas Starbucks mug, cup, thing. Don't ask, it's just the way it's going today. Before we do anything, I recently reached 200 subscribers, which is kind of mind-boggling. So to those of you who have hit subscribe, who watch, who comment, who like, it's such a small thing, and yet it's just kind of a nice thing. I started this channel a year and a bit ago now because I just wanted to talk about the books that I was reading, and I had discovered the booktube community. It was really neat. I love it. And so to those of you who are joining me, I really appreciate it. And so I just wanted to say thank you. That out of the way, let's move on to the actual purpose of today's video. I have mentioned, I think in a couple of videos, how I'm feeling a little slumpy in my reading, and I'm going to attempt to fix that today with one of those read a chapter challenges. The first time I ever saw this, I believe it was Kayla on Books and Lala, and she did 100 books or something. I'm not doing that many, but I do have a bit of a plan. I have 4 books here from my recent checking in on the checked out library. I'm going to do a chapter from each of them. And then today I went to the library and I grabbed any book that I thought was kind of interesting, and I came out with a bag full of books. Here's the deal. I'm going to try a chapter of each. If I think I want to keep reading it, I'm going to keep it. If it's a book that I know at some point in my life I'll be interested in, I'll make a note of it. And if it's another just I'm not interested, those 2 sections are going to go back. Because what I have discovered in this kind of reading slump thing is when I go to a bookshelf, particularly a library bookshelf, where my books, I know I only have them for a certain period of time and I'm not going through them, it actually kind of makes it worse because I feel like there's a lot of totally undue and myself putting pressure on that I need to read these books, and it doesn't help the situation. So the goal is at the end of this video to only be keeping the books that I know for a fact I really want to read. I also have books on my physical bookshelves that I would really like to get to. I'm not going to include those in this video. These are just going to be library books, but that is the goal. The goal is to read a chapter, hopefully find a book that really intrigues me that I'll keep, and the rest of them I'm sending back. Even if I think I will read them at some point, I don't want to see them because it's not good for my mental space right now. I also don't have as much reading time as I did previously. I have started my first ever job in America, and that is wild. I have been out of the workforce for a long time because I couldn't legally work in this country. I now can, and it's definitely taking some adjusting. So I'm excited. I am going to, where should I start? Okay, I'll talk about the 4 that I'm going to start with, and then once I've read a chapter, I will come back. I think that's how I'm going to do it. So the 4 are from my previous library video. The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard, Crosshairs by Catherine Hernandez, Acts of Forgiveness by Maura Cheeks, and Shanghailanders by Julie Min. I will talk about them after I finish the chapter, and we will hopefully, cross our fingers, find some success. Please, 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 please. Find some success. The first chapter of Shanghailanders is 18 pages, and you start in the year 2040 with Leo in Shanghai. And he's on a train, and there's another character whose name is Shauna. And it seems like they knew each other previously, and kind of one of the unique things about this book is it travels back in time. So you start in 2040, and I think you start going back to the year 2014, I think is the date that you eventually stop at. And it looks at a family. Leo has 2 daughters and a wife, and they are getting on a plane and going to Boston. That's where his daughters go to school. And that is how the book starts, is kind of just him talking about how he's dropped off his wife and his daughters, and how Shauna is an attendant on this train that Leo is on, and she recognizes Leo, but Leo doesn't seem to recognize her. That's as far as we've gotten. This is going to be a no from me for now. It's possible I would pick this one up again because I do normally like a family story. I am not in the mood for it right now, and I'm not sure that it's one that I will re-pick up. If I keep hearing about this, because I've heard people talk about wanting to read this book a lot, but I haven't heard anybody talk about actually reading it and them actually enjoying the process of it. So this is going to be a no for now, with a slight possibility of later. But like I said, it does have a really unique premise in that it moves back in time and it is a family story. So if you're into a family story, I think it's still one that you could probably pick up and really enjoy. It just isn't for me right now. That feels good. Just like, let's just get through this. Next, I'm going to go Acts of Forgiveness by Morta Cheeks. First chapter is 21 pages, and you start out with a prologue where you are following Marcus Revel, and he is essentially asking his neighbors for help to be able to continue renting a house. But then you skip to chapter 1 and you're following Willie Revel, who is a single mother. And I'm not really sure, is her last name Revel? Yes. So they're related. I'm not really sure exactly where the connection is. You don't know that right off the top of the book. And this book is about a reparations bill has gone through in America, and Black families who can prove that they are, where does it say? Proof that they are descendants of slaves, they are eligible for $175,000, which obviously is a lot of money, and Willie really needs this money. And so I think it's about her journey in figuring out where and how to get that money, and the process of going through that, and your history of your family. That's what I'm assuming this book is about, and I am going to continue reading this book because the writing is really easy, but it's very quick and easy to follow. It was a really fast 21 pages. I think the story is going to be really interesting. So this one is going to stay on my to read pile, and I will get to it very shortly. I'm very excited about that. Next, we're going to do Crosshairs by Catherine Hernandez. As mentioned in my checking in on the checked out video, I am concerned. I don't know that this book is going to be for me as much as I absolutely adore this author. So this might be one of those books that gets put back and then I get it out again in the future. And then we have The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. So I actually did start reading this book, and the main character that you're following is a 16-year-old girl. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't love books told from a teenage perspective. So I'm gonna read a little bit more of it, but I think possibly for now, just because I think the story sounds fascinating, I think for now it just might not be the book for me, but I will tell you more about it once I read a little bit more of these. It doesn't look like there are really, oh, there are chapters in this book, but like they're really long. So, but I know pretty quickly that I am in fact going to keep reading this one. If you have never read Catherine Hernandez before, I just need to tell you, her writing is exquisite. It is so detailed and beautiful, but it is not excessive. It's not overly drawn out. She just has a really incredible way of describing certain things and making you feel certain things. I think her writing is sublime. And so I'm going to keep reading this. So in the first few pages, you're following a character named Kay, who is talking to this man, Evan, in a letter form, not physically. And you find out that Kay is hiding out in this basement. There's no light. He's being provided food when he can be, but he's always got to be prepared to run because there is a regime that it sounds like it's after him. And this book, I think, follows that story where they're trying to kind of rise up against an oppressive system. So it says at the bottom that Crosshairs grapples with the matrix of oppressive systems perpetuated by environmental disaster and state-sanctioned violence. And that sounds really heavy. And I don't know if I'm in the mood for heavy, but I think with the way Hernandez tells stories, I think I'm going to have to give it a try. I am not willing to put this back only to get it out again. I'm going to keep it out. Yeah, this is definitely a book that I'm very excited about. And as I've said, Catherine Hernandez has a spectacular writing. She did write Scarborough as well. Just like, She's not an author I think that is super, super well known, but I think she's brilliant, and so I'm definitely going to have to read this book. Okay, The Other Valley. I have made an executive decision on The Other Valley that it's just not for me right now. I think the premise of the story is super interesting. To the east is the future, to the west is the path. If you were permitted to cross the valley's borders, which direction would you go? And I think that sounds so cool. But right now, just the way the character was introduced and the way the story was being told, I don't think I'm super, super in the mood for this one. So it's gonna go back, but I think it's going to be a book that I pick up at a later date. Okay, so those were the library books that I already had. Now let's get into the ones that I picked up today. And I'm very curious to know how they go. Should I do 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8? There are 11 here. And some of them are pretty massive. Some of them I had heard of before, and some of them I have not. So I guess just we'll go through this one at a time. Grab yourself a coffee. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it's not going to be the shortest. We're going to start with Vacant Possession by Hilary Mantel. Hilary Mantel wrote Wolf Hall, which is a very beloved trilogy, a historical fiction trilogy that follows Cromwell, I think. I have tried reading it twice. The writing is incredible, but for some reason I have never ever been able to get into it, and I have, like I said, tried twice, and I tried really hard on that second occasion. So I wanted to try one of her shorter books, which is, I don't really know what it's about. I just saw it and it was a shorter book. Hilary Mantel's razor-sharp wit animates every page of this darkly comic tale of retribution. So give me a moment and let's see how this one goes. This is going to be a no from me right now, but I didn't know how many books Hilary Mantel has written that aren't the Wolf Hall trilogy. That's my bad, total ignorance on my part. I think she's somebody that I want to continue to check out and may, in fact, check this book out again at some point. It's just not a book I want to read at this moment, but it sounds pretty intriguing and kind of gruesome, but maybe not in like a bad, I can't handle gore. Not in a gory way, but just in like a dark way. So I am very interested in this in the future, not right now. Another prolific writer that I am very curious about, and I don't know that this is really going to work for me right now, but it is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I read The Handmaid's Tale for the first time last year, absolutely freaking loved it, which means obviously I have to read the sequel. It is huge, which makes me curious as to whether or not it's the right book for me right now, but it would qualify for Big Book would it? Oh yeah, 414 pages. It would qualify for Big Book Summer if I was to get into this one. So I'm gonna give the first chapter a go. This is set 15 years after The Handmaid's Tale. And let's see how the first chapter pans out. It's a very short first chapter. It's like 2.5 pages. So, uno momento. Yeah, this is a book I'm very interested in. I think it's possibly one that I might buy and just put on my shelves just so that I have it. In the first chapter, you're following a woman who is not named, and she's talking about how she's going to be writing her manuscript. And when you look at the synopsis, you're following 3 women, one who grew up in Gilead, one who grew up in Canada, who is anti-Gilead, and then what do they call her? And then an enforcer. And I think the enforcer on here doesn't have a name, and I think that the first few pages are from the enforcer's point of view. I'm not really sure where it's going to go. So I'm going to keep this with me because, like I said, The Handmaid's Tale is absolutely brilliant, and I really, really, really want to read this. But I think it's a book that I might buy and just have on my shelves. We shall see how that goes, but this is getting a check to stay. I've got a couple more kind of easy contemporary books because sometimes when you're slumping, that's all you need is something fun and easy. The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa K. Adams and The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Morgenthaler. Let me see how these go. Contemporary books, contemporary romance can be really hit and miss with me. Romance period can be really hit and miss with me. So we'll see how these pan out. Which one wins? This one. So this sets up with Graham, who owns a bar called The Tourist Trap, and this takes place in Alaska. Secret side note, my husband and I have a very quiet dream of moving to Alaska one day. I don't know that it'll ever come to fruition. We've never even been to Alaska, but we're both very, very attracted to it. Anyways, I'm gonna keep this one. It seems like it'd just be a fun, silly read, which means I'm gonna get rid of this one. This one's set up with, what's his name? Gavin being super drunk because his wife has decided that she wants a divorce, and 3 of his buddies show up, and the chapter ends with them saying they're gonna help save his marriage. I'm sure it's very cute, I'm sure it's very fun, but if I had to choose one or the other, I'm gonna choose this one. And this can go back, and again, maybe someday will show up. It's not that I'm totally opposed to reading this, I just don't think it's gonna be the one for me right now. We've got, up next, The Memory Police by Yoko Agawa. Let's see how this one goes. Okay, I am very, very shortly into this book, but I'm definitely going to keep this on the to read pile. So in this book you are following, there's, I don't know, does she have a name? I don't know if the main character has a name, but what's happening is objects are disappearing and people just aren't remembering. But occasionally somebody will remember an object, and there are these memory police who are committed to making sure that things that have been forgotten stay forgotten. And I guess at some point the young writer, finds out that her editor is in danger, and it goes from there. I am a masterful work of speculative fiction. I'm very curious about this. I've definitely heard people talking about this, and I think quite positively. I just think the premise sounds really, really interesting. I think there's also a book out there somewhere where letters start disappearing, or like letters fall off of a sign, and the people think that that's a symbol that that letter needs to disappear from their language. Has anybody heard of that book, or am I making that up? Anyways, that's what this kind of reminds me of, only with things. And so I'm very curious. I'm definitely going to keep this one on the to read pile. We have 6 more to go, and I'm going to tell you what they are and read them, and I'll come back and let you know what's going on. What Never Happened by Rachel Housel Hull. My Name Was Eden by Eleanor Barker White. The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. The Niger Wife by Vanessa Walters. And Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Now, I'll be honest with this one, I have tried reading this before and I DNF'd it. But I saw it at the library, and I know people really like this series because I think 2 are out for it right now. So I just picked it up just to give it a go. No harm, no foul. It's a library book. If I don't like it, I'll just send it back. So those are the 6 that I'm now going to look at and hope that at least a few of them make it into the please be read pile. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo is going to go in the not to read pile. So this is a tale of power, privilege, dark magic, and murder set among the Ivy League elite. Sounds like it should be a book that I would really enjoy, but for some reason it's just not connecting. And because I know I've already tried it, I'm not going to try again. The Niger Wife by Vanessa Walters is a thriller, and you're following Nicole, or not following, but it's about Nicole, who seems to have the perfect life. She goes missing, and her aunt comes to try to figure out what's going on, and obviously the more she delves into it, the more secrets are revealed. And because it's a thriller, and thrillers generally help with slumpy reading because they can be really quick paced, I am going to leave this as a read option. Okay, we keep going. Hard and fast yes to this one. I don't know that I'll be able to stick with it the whole way through because I've read from Paul Tremblay before and he's not my favorite, but I'm definitely going to give this one a go. So you're starting with Wen, who is playing in the front yard, and she and her dads are at a cabin kind of in the middle of nowhere. It does mention early on there's no cell signal, and this man has shown up, and he's very large, and he's talking to her, and they're collecting grasshoppers, and I imagine things are about to go south real fast. So yes, I will continue reading this one. I'm gonna pass on The Bear and the Nightingale. I'm pretty sure this is part of a series, and I don't think it's necessarily a pass for forever, but it is going to be a pass for now. There we go. And this is, it's got some Russian, at the edge of the Russian wilderness. And yeah, it seems to have some like supernatural stuff going on. Her father brings home a stepmother and weird things start to happen. I'm not totally sure, obviously, but it's just a book that I'm going to pass on at the moment. So What Never Happened by Rachel Housel Hall starts with the obituary of Colette Sienna Weber, and it's a pretty graphic obituary. It's got a lot of bullets and saying, "We warned you, Colette." And Colette is a girl who was the sole survivor of a deadly home invasion, and she has to go back home for her aunt, and I guess Colette writes obituaries. So it seems pretty intriguing. I am going to keep it. However, it is pretty long, and the font is quite small. So I'm not sure, it's going to have to be a pretty good page turner, I think, but it's one that I think I'm definitely going to keep around because it's a thriller. And starting off the bat with the obituary of the main character intrigues me immensely. We have fortunately found a winner on the last book, which is My Name Was Eden by Eleanor Barker White. This is about Eden and Lucy. So Lucy had twins, Eden and Eli, but Eli was an unborn twin. So it says that this is about vanishing twin syndrome. And can you hear that? The kids next door are shrilly screaming. What is with kids and screaming? Like, does it have to happen? You're just on a trampoline, bro. Chill. Anyways, Eden has an accident, and when she comes back from the hospital, she is acting oddly, and she wants to be called Eli. Eli being the twin, but Eden didn't ever know about Eli. Sounds fascinating. I don't always love kid thrillers, and I'm certainly not loving kids at this very second as they scream their little hearts out. But I think that it is a book that could keep me entertained, and like I said, that was the whole point of this. So out of all of those books, 1, 2, 6, we're going back, I am keeping 9. Hooah! And I am very excited about them. Also, I bought myself a piece of cake to celebrate 200 subscribers, so thank you for that. You guys have given me a reason to eat cake. I haven't had a slice of cake in, it's literally been years. First, I'm going to go make dinner, and I'm going to start getting on some reading. I hope you all enjoyed. I will give updates in other videos, I suppose. Let me know if any of these books you have read and enjoyed, or am I wasting my time? Don't give me spoilers, but if you didn't like a certain book, you can tell me. If you loved a book that I got rid of, tell me that as well. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.